history of research in India, and he has also asked me to talk about on the ideas, basic ideas related to Egyptian and Greek culture. At the outset, let me make you very clear that my lecture will not cover each and every aspect of the research that has been going on in India and abroad, but I would like to just give you a brief background to the history of research in India, especially in social sciences, humanities, and science in particular. Then my talk will be on Greek ideas and Egyptian ideas of research, how they are helpful for the Indian students to do their research in a very scientific way. I think that most of the speakers might have acquainted you with certain terminologies of research and might have distinguished between search and research, discoveries and inventions. So make the primary distinction between search and research, and then discovery and invention. So in the field of academics, I am referring to the field of academics only, how the academic research has been going on in our country and how it was initiated. What were the initial phases, the middle phases, and how the research is being done in the modern times in India in different faculties such as arts and humanities and social sciences and science as a natural subject. So in the beginning, let me make you crystal clear that research basically began with the advent of higher academic institutions in India. In higher education in India, academic research is given the top priority as it helps not only to enhance the knowledge of the people who are working in the academic field, but also the society at large. So the academic research is not only helpful to the individuals, but it is also broadly useful to the society, because at last we live in a community. Community in a broader sense. Crowd, club, and community. Crowd is a small thing, club is another thing, and community is large. Crowd has no purpose at all, whereas club has certain purpose. Club is formed of specific people, but community is formed of large amount of people, large number of people. So we are concerned basically with the human beings in this world and their welfare. What is our final goal of doing all this research? I think that the final goal of our all research is to establish a very peaceful, cordial, and very affectionate society, mutually adjustable, accommodative society. I think that the more intelligent you are, the more accommodative you should be. You should be able to accommodate. all kinds of people and serve them as and when it is needed. So research in India, my basic assumption is that began with the establishment of higher learning institutions, universities and colleges in India. And research is not a static process, it is a dynamic process. And research is always in a constant flux as changes take place every now and then. Every now and then, time and again, changes take place. Change is the law of this universe. So changes are bound to take place, and research is no exception to this rule. So it has been observed that in India, we find that many people are doing research. So research in India basically is influenced by the Western scientists and educationists in general. No doubt, Indian researchers have greatly contributed to the body of knowledge in the world, but I am of the opinion that all academic activities of higher learning are influenced by the Western scholars, Western researchers, and therefore it is necessary to see how these Western researchers influenced the Indian researchers. There were many research scholars in the past who contributed to the various fields of disciplines such as biology, anthropology, trigonometry, geology, physics, chemistry, humanities, social sciences, languages, and so on and so forth. So, in India, we have researches going on in different disciplines. Similarly, Egyptian and Greek scholars of the ancient past also contributed to the field of research. Later on, I will make you acquainted with some of the terminologies in Greek and Egyptian cultures. But now it is imperative to peep into the history of research and focus on the developmental stages as far as India is concerned. So let us begin our discussion with the history of research in India. You know that education was given great importance in ancient India. If you go back into the past, you will realize that there were some famous universities in India, in ancient India. For example, Nalanda and Takshashila universities were founded in the past. You know that Nalanda University was established in the 5th century and it had flourished till the 12th century. Takshashila, now which is in Lahore in Pakistan, was an early Buddhist center for learning. In this Buddhist center of learning, you must have learned that Jatak Kathas were produced, which are based on morality and human nature. According to the available references, this university, especially Takshashila University, is dated back to at least the 5th century BC. So this is all happened in the 5th century BC, and these institutions of higher learning imparted education to the Indians till the 12th centuries. But what happened after 12th century? What happened after the 12th century? During the 13th and 17th centuries, there is a period of political turmoil. Turmoil means upheaval, unrest. There was no stability in the field of education until the advent of the British colony in India. You know that during this period, the Mughals came and number of invaders came from the Western countries and they invaded India. And there was anarchy during 13th and 17th centuries. And this could be regarded as the period of political turmoil in India till the British came in India. You know the history of India, that British company, that is East India Company, was established in 1600 AD. And thereon, they started to focus their attention on different walks of life, including education. So during the British rule in India, what happened? That the privileged classes got an opportunity to pursue higher education. And the academic research was only confined to the academic institutions only. And this academic research was one of the most important components of higher education in India. So broadly, I would divide the research in India into two categories. Number one, research in pre-independence India and research in post-independence India. That is, pre-independent phase and post-independence phase. These are the two phases. Now let's talk about the first phase of research. What happened? In the pre-independence phase, the academic research in India had been going on at a snail's pace. At a snail's pace means very slowly. And there were fewer universities, because there were fewer universities in British India. There were some universities in India which were founded in British India. Which are these universities and in which year they were founded? Mumbai University, Madras University, and University of Calcutta were established in 1857. Then Aligarh Muslim University was established in 1875. Allahabad University was founded in 1887. Banaras Hindu University was established in 1916. And at the same time, Mysore University was established. Patna University was established in 1917. And Punjab University was established in 1947. And later universities were founded after the post-independence era. So academic research is typically conducted in these universities and institutions of higher learning. So research could be traced back to the British colonial rule in India. You know that Asiatic Society in West Bengal was established in 1784 mainly for the purpose of imparting education, especially higher education, to the masses. Primary education was also involved in this. The English rulers that time thought that they should set up some teaching institutions in India, and their goal was to create servants who could help them to run their administration in India smoothly. Because they thought that without educated people in India, they would not be able to govern India properly. So after all, they were concerned about their governing. So it was impossible for them to continue their governance without imparting education to the Indian people. And they thought that they should impart education to the masses also. And with this aim in mind, they began to take interest in different walks of life, different fields such as archaeology, biology, geology, zoology, and all other natural sciences. As a result of this, the academic recognition came in limelight in 1902. This year is a landmark in the history of academic research because this is the time when Sir Ronald Ross won the Nobel Prize for his work done in India on the life cycle of malaria parasites. That was his first attempt to do the research in India. Now, these are the basic things that I have told you about the research in the past. Now, I will just make you aware of the various disciplines as far as academic research is concerned. So, this academic research is related to different faculties. So, I have divided them into several categories, but these are some of the few categories where research is done on a large scale. So, first is research in humanities and social sciences. Next is research in science and technology. Then research in literature, research in agriculture, research in medical science. However, we may not deal with all these research areas, but we shall focus on the humanities, social sciences, and science and technology particularly. Now, how research came in humanities and social sciences? You should know the basic things about the research in humanities and social sciences. It has been noticed that humanities and social sciences as academic discipline, research began in the late 19th century. The importance of social science research has been growing day by day. However, the standards and the quality of research are declining. Though the research is going on in different faculties, but the research is not up to the mark. You have seen that there are so many PhD theses lying in the university libraries. How far they are useful for the society. Think of the research projects, the PhD thesis, the MPhil thesis lying in the laboratory, accumulating dust on them. So this should not happen, that your research work should be finally useful to the society. So what happened? That importance of social science research has been developing in the country by leaps and bounds. However, I told you that the standard and the quality of research is declining, diminishing. The research in the field of social science is basically concerned with the empirical methods. Those who are doing research in social sciences deal with empirical methods. Growth and development of a nation can be assessed by making quantitative and qualitative societal analysis on a specific region. But how far the data that you collect and analyze is going to be useful for the society at large? Think about that. Let me make you very clear. What do the subjects in humanities basically do? What do they deal with? Basically, all subjects in humanities deal with the study of languages, the study of literature, the study of arts and fine arts, including philosophy. So the historical development of social science research can be divided into primarily three phases. The first phase of research in social sciences falls between 1947 and 1969. The second phase is between 1970 and 1990. And the third phase falls between 1991 till today, that is 2023. So what happened before independent India? India was most favored topic among Asian and Western scholars. Why? Because of its rich and varied culture, the rich heritage of culture and tradition, one may say. And the study of modern sciences developed after the British colonial rule came to an end. This is a remarkable highlight of the development of research in India. Indian scholars in pre-independence period were doing research in the social fields, especially. You might have come to know that Dada Nauroji, especially the Indian freedom fighter, who was an Indian freedom fighter, who contributed to the philosophical realm, he brought to the notice of the people that time that colonial rulers in India were not concerned with the Indian society. He brought to the notice that they were not concerned to the Indian society, and they were basically looking after their own needs, especially administration in India and looking after the welfare of the British Empire. So the pre-independence period produced a number of social reformers that time because of the atrocities committed by the Britishers in India that time. So many political and social thinkers came to the forefront and launched a scathing attack on evil practices in the Indian society. You might have come to know Raja Ram Mohan Rai and all other reformers came and tried to reform the Indian society. So they tried to solve the problems of the multicultural, multi-religious and multilingual in India. So India is a multicultural, multi-religious and multilingual country. Multi means many. There are many languages in India. There are many cultures in India. And there are many religions in India. But due to our policy of secularism, we accept all religions as equal, and our aim is to establish a very peaceful and loving community. So this is what happened in pre-independence period. In the post-independence period, what happened? The prime focus of the Indian government was on eradicating the chronic problems of Indian people. So what were the problems of Indian people? Malnutrition, poverty, overpopulation, and unemployment of the youths. These were the major problems of the Indian people. So what happened? It resulted in the mixed economy system envisaged by the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, who aimed at the balanced growth of economy. If you want the country to be a balanced, economically developed nation, then it is necessary to bring private sectors and public sectors together and establish some kind of harmony between the two for the all-round progress of the society. So it was during 1950s, a number of research institutions were established for equitable growth and development of Indian society. You know that some of the well-known institutions in India for humanities and social sciences are Delhi School of Economics, Indian Statistical Institute, Calcutta, and Indian Council of Social Science Research. You call it ICSSR. It was established in 1969. So this institute played a key role in the development of social science research in India. And it was the seminal institute which categorized social sciences in various disciplines. Remember this, that this was the institute, Indian Council of Social Science Research. Indian Council of Social Science Research, the short form of which is ICSSR. So this institution categorized social sciences into various disciplines such as education, linguistics, psychology, sociology, anthropology, and administration. And after the establishment of greater number of universities in India, the research in social science drastically rose. What happened after the establishment of these educational institutions of higher learning? That research activities began to go at a rapid pace. It is estimated that up to 1980, the PhD degree holders, the number of PhD degree holders was 10,000 up to 1980, according to the annual report of UGC, which was published in 2016 or 2017. The total number of research students was in 2016 and 2017, 2,31,887, out of which 1,94,159 students were enrolled for MPhil degree, whereas 37,328 students were registered for PhD degree. Out of these, 27,671 PhD degrees were awarded in the academic year 2016 and 2017 only. I am only talking about this academic year. And you must visualize how many PhD holders were produced after that. Lakhs of students have done their research in various disciplines, but unfortunately, they have remained unemployed due to unknown reasons. We have to find out what reasons are there that you are not getting proper employment. We have to find out and see to it that how the youth of our country can get better opportunities, job opportunities after completing their PhD courses and after completing their PhD degrees. I am of the opinion that academic research and PhD degrees are not as helpful as they should be for the individuals, because these academic degrees are restricted to only books, and books only will not give you everything that you need in life. So this is the status of higher education in India. Now, what is the role of the government in promoting these social institutions? Is it satisfactory and is it supportive? I am of the opinion that the government of India is supporting and taking efforts to support all these institutions of higher learning up to the satisfaction. And you should know that the government of India has taken a lot of effort to establish these centers of social sciences aimed at research in India only, which are these famous institutions that are established in India. I have made a list of it, and some of these institutions are Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. Number 2, School of Social Sciences, that is JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. Center for Women's Development Studies, that is in New Delhi. Number 4, School for Women's Studies, that is Jadhav University, Kolkata. Center for Studies in Social Sciences, that is also in Kolkata. Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, that is located at Simla. Tata Institute of Social Sciences, that is located in Mumbai. International Center for Research for Women, that is established in New Delhi. And Indian Institute of Dalit Studies, that is located in New Delhi. Now, this is an emerging area of study. Dalit studies is an emerging area of research study. I would like to draw your attention to this particular fact. It has been observed that the government of India provides more than adequate funds to these institutions of humanities and social sciences. For example, ICSSR and UGC are funded by the central government, especially by Ministry of Human Resource Development, that was established in 1985. At that time, Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister of this country, and he thought that he should evolve a particular ministry for the human welfare, and therefore he named it as the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Now this is called the Ministry of Education. In 2020, this particular ministry has been renamed to the previous ministry, like Ministry of Education. However, the researchers take the advantages of the facilities provided by the Indian government. Unfortunately, they migrate to the developed countries in the world for seeking highly paid jobs and raising their standard of living, which is a very bad sign of the development and progress of India. This is a big loss to manpower in India. So this is called a brain drain theory. You must have heard about this brain drain theory. As far as social sciences are concerned and humanities are concerned, we find that there is a tremendous scope for doing research, especially a new emerging branch which is known as digital humanities. You must have heard about this particular word, digital humanities. So digital humanities is the future of research in the globalized world. So as far as humanities and social sciences are concerned, this new branch of research has emerged in this 20th century, 21st century. So this branch came into existence actually in 1966, but it came really in focus in 1980. Its primary focus was designing standards to represent cultural heritage data, such as text encoding initiative, digitalization of data. The research in humanities and science these days is mostly in the digital form. With the passage of time, the research technologies in science, especially social science and humanities, are drastically changing as the digital technologies are fast evolving. So, what do these digital humanists do? Digital humanists, human beings and digital humanists, these are different things. What do we do in the digital world? We are concerned with a variety of topics which are identified into several categories. There are totally 5 categories. Number 1 is digital collection and archiving and testing encoding. This is one area of digital humanities. Number 2 area is reading and analyzing electronic text. How to read and analyze electronic text. Number 3, geospatial and critical discursive mapping technologies. This is the third area. Number 4, big data, social computing, crowdsourcing, and networking. And number 5, 3D immersive visualization environment. These are the 5 areas where digital humanities has been working on. And I think that the research in digital humanities has an adverse effect on the epistemological research. You know, epistemological research is basically based on your own experiences. You know, field research, we call it field research. But this field research has been gradually declining because of the digital humanities. And these actually digital humanities deal with all the aspects of human life related to computer technology. In this connection, the first journal in digital humanities was named as Computers and Humanities. It was published way back in 1966. Remember the period when 1966 computer came at a much later stage in India, and now you are in the advanced stage of computing. So digital humanities projects and journals are open access journals you will find on internet. For example, you must have heard about Scopus journals. This is open access journal available journals. These are open access journals available for anyone with an internet enabled device or internet connection. If you have internet connection, if you have internet device enabled device with you, you can access these journals on your internet. You know how to open the websites. For example, you go into Google, open the Google, then go to the care list journals, care list journals. The care list journal will be shown in University of Pune. Then open the Scopus journals, and then you have number of options there, subject, and if you want to open access journal, then click there, and you will have a large amount of journals on the subject that you want to know or you want to publish. You can also publish your article in the journals free of cost. So this is a gift of digital humanities. So you can view a website and read a research article as per your convenience without having to pay anything. You can also share the contents of the article and the appropriate permission for that purpose. This was all about social sciences and humanities, researches in social sciences and humanities. Now, I will shift my focus on another research area, that is research in science and technology. I'll just give you the brief history of research in science and technology. I don't know much about science and technology since I am a student from arts faculty and I have spent my 40 years of life in reading and writing and doing research in English language and literature. So I hardly know anything about science, but I venture to talk on scientific uh, technology and research. So pardon me if I uh, misinform you about some of the developments in the field of research because I know nothing about science, but I know something of science and I would like to tell you what I know and what you ought to know at this moment. So first of all, the history of research in science dates back to the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, IASC, Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science. This institution was established in Kolkata, then Calcutta, in 1876. And the founder of this institute was Dr. Mahendra Lal Sarkar. He was the founder of this particular institution, which was devoted to the research in the field of science. You know that he wanted to see that Indian people should develop scientific temperament and they should be doing this in their practical life. So it was supported by both private and government funds. So it set up a laboratory for the scientists to do the research in natural science, and it also offered scholarships for scholarly students that time. It was here Chandrasekhar Venkat Raman, that is C.V. Raman, the prominent physicist, discovered Raman effect, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1930. He was the first Asian to get this prize in the discipline of science. In the late 19th century, Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose and chemist Sir Prafulla Chandra published a research which received recognition all over the world. Particularly, Bose was a polymath. Polymath. Polymath, P-O-L-Y-M-A-T-H. Polymath, P-O-L-Y-M-A-T-H. Polymath is a person having knowledge of many subjects. The person who has the knowledge of many subjects is known or called as a polymath. So he had the knowledge, Bose had the knowledge in botany, biology, and physics. So he made a significant contribution in these fields. And he also contributed to the development of radio communication in India and plant research, plants especially, animals and plants especially. And therefore, he could be regarded, I am of the opinion that he could be regarded as the father of Wi-Fi in India. If you really want to know who was the father of Wi-Fi in India in the bygone days, and I would say that he was the father of Wi-Fi in India because he developed a radio communication system. And you know how radio came into being. Radio broadcasting actually began in India in 1922. What is radio actually? Radio is nothing but electromagnetic waves. You know that electromagnetic waves that convert into sound, and sound everybody likes. Everybody likes songs, everybody likes the sounds of people. Not cacophonic sounds, but sonorous sounds we are interested in. In the 20th century, Indian universities played a very key role in fostering advanced teaching and academic research. Some of the names are prominent here. Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee, the then Vice Chancellor of University Calcutta, hired outstanding professors that time in diverse fields of study, including C.V. Raman and Sir Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. Their writings interpreted Indian thoughts for the Western world. Here, remember that all scientists and social thinkers were from upper category, upper social strata of the society, and in advantaged class, or you can say established classes. First of all, got an opportunity to do research in higher institutions, and common people were not allowed to take part in the educational process that time. So the established class came forward and did research in a number of fields. So in collaboration with distinguished European scientists, Indian scientists also did research in science as fellows of Royal Societies. You know that they did research as fellows of Royal Societies. You must remember that Dr. Homi J. Bhabha, a great Indian physicist, later founded the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Bombay in 1945. So this is a history of research in India, especially in the field of science. Now let us talk about the modern research in science in India. So modern India has had a very strong focus on science and technology these days, because we realize that science and technology is a key element for the economic growth and prosperity of the nation. I am talking about the material prosperity of the nation. I am not talking about the spiritual prosperity of the nation, because spiritual prosperity of the nation is another area of research. We have to do a lot of research in that area, but primarily we are focusing on science and technology. Swami Vivekananda once said that one can be scientific and spiritual at the same time. So if spiritualism and science can be brought together for the welfare of human beings, then I think that we will all live amicably in this world without fighting, without quarrels, without wars. Because wars will destroy everything. So let us make peace with human beings. Peace is better than war. So we should not go for war, but we should go for peace, because we want to see a very beautiful world of human beings who come together for helping each other. So here, as far as India is concerned, India ranks third among the most attractive investment destinations for technology transactions in the world, with more and more multinational companies setting up their research and development centers in India. So that in many companies, in many international multinational companies, you will have separate departments for research and development. And their research is really oriented, reality oriented. They do the research from the bottom of their heart for the welfare of their company. Whereas the academic research is done only for the benefit of the individuals. Because once you get a degree, you get a job, you get paid for your job, and that is all about that degree, and you do nothing about that degree later on in life. So do PhD degree, that will help you in your life. Don't do a PhD degree on the subject, on the topic which is unrelated to your life, which is unrelated to your society, which is unrelated to your basic environment, to the surroundings, social surroundings. So here many researches are taking place in the field of space also. You must have heard about PSLV, that is Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, launched by India. So India is likely to take a leading role in launching satellites for SAARC nations, generating revenue by offering its space facilities for the use of other countries. These are some of the few aspects of science and technology I have talked about. Now, my concern is to take you to the second phase of my talk, that is Egyptian and Greek ideas of research. So how why Egyptians and Greek ideas? Why the topic is given to me, I don't understand why Egyptian and Greek ideas are useful for the Indian researchers. Maybe due to various reasons, these ideas from the Western cultures will be helpful to you to some extent. So let us talk about Egyptian ideas and research in the beginning. Basically, Egyptians were one of the most fascinating and advanced civilizations of their time, like Indian civilization. Indian civilization can be dated back to 3000 years BC, whereas the ancient Egyptian civilization is considered as one of the oldest civilizations in the history, which can be dated back to around 3100 BC. For over 2 millennium years, Egypt was ruled by a succession of powerful dynasties, including the famous Ptolemaic and Roman periods. Ptolemaic and Roman periods were the glorious periods in the history of Egyptian civilization. Despite being conquered by foreign powers, Egypt always managed to retain its cultural heritage, like India. Despite several invasions, Indian culture remained intact. We can say that Indian culture is like like a moving bicycle. It is stable and it is still moving. A number of invaders came to India. Saka came to India, Huna came to India, Mughals came to India, the British came to India, the French came to India, Dutch came to India, especially in Goa and all other regions, and invaded India. But Indian culture remains intact till today. Similarly, this culture remained rich in its cultural heritage. So no discussion of ancient Egypt would be complete without mentioning the famous pyramids and other landmarks that have come to symbolize this fascinating civilization. You know that ancient Egypt is one of the earliest civilizations to have left written, pictorial, and archaeological records of his culture. There are written records, pictorial records, and archaeological records of his culture, especially related to medicine, mathematics, and astronomy. So, working with these sources can be immensely fascinating and satisfying. But at the same time, it requires a certain amount of stamina and willingness to leave our modern categories and concepts behind in order to engage with those of civilization that flourished over 3,000 years ago. Whether the concepts and ideas generated in that culture are useful to the modern period, I doubt. For example, their ideas really, to a certain extent, helped human beings all over the world, especially when you realize that they introduced mummification. You know that mummification, then medicine, agriculture, fermentation, engineering, architecture. The ancient Egyptians were pioneers in astronomy, astronomical physics. Their expertise played an important role in determining the annual flooding of river Nile. You know, Nile river flows through this country. And they wanted to protect the pyramids in that country. Therefore, they just observed the flood system of this particular river. And in Egyptian culture, you will find the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. This is arguably the most famous archaeological discovery ever made. Until 1950s, the Egyptian universities were at the international standard. They were at the international standard in science and research. From 1960 onwards, the fundamental changes in the higher education system caused a decline in Egyptian education and research. So that is the saddest part of the story. Whether we should follow the Egyptian method of teaching and research, I hope I'm doubtful about this. But anyway, they contributed to the development of research. Basically, they gave you the ideas on which people started thinking and doing research in later ages. First of all, what happens? The philosophical aspects come in. Then people start working on those projects, those ideas, and they become the idea, they turn into science. Science is born out of the philosophy of mankind. So this is how Egyptian ideas will help you do research in particular areas of life. Now let me talk about the Greek ideas in research in brief. Several of ancient Greek philosophers, so Greek ideas and research. Let us talk about Greek ideas and research. Several of the ancient Greek philosophers regarded Egypt as a place of wisdom. Greek philosophers, remember that, great philosophers regarded Egypt as a place of wisdom because there were wise people, there were philosophers, there were social thinkers, they were great politicians. They evolved certain ideologies which helped human beings to elevate their standard of living. As far as the Greek ideas are concerned, I can say with a certain amount of confidence that the ancient Greek philosophers theorized and analyzed several ideas such as moral and ethical issues. What did these Greek philosophers mainly do? They put into theory. All the theories came from the Greek philosophy. They theorized the thing. They made the analysis of the thing. Especially, their focus was on moral and ethical issues in the society and the basic nature of human being. On these two aspects, they started working basically. And therefore, you'll find that the ancient Greek philosophers contributed to philosophy and culture to a large extent. For example, Socrates was one of the well-known philosophers who left a permanent mark on human civilization. You know that Socrates was a great philosopher. He is basically known for deductive logic, deductive method, dialogue. So he tried to find out the solution by dialogue. I think that all teachers should use Socratean way of teaching in the classroom. They should have a dialogue, one-to-one dialogue with their students. So Socrates, you know that I know something about Socrates' life. He used to get up early in the morning at 5 o'clock, have a bread dipped into wine, a glass of wine. That was his average breakfast. And he would go out of his house early in the morning in the city of Athens. At the corner, he would assemble all the people and talk to them. And he would discuss the basic issues of life. What is God? What is human being? What is true marriage? What is a good teacher? What are the qualities of a good teacher? Who is a good politician? All these basic ideas were discussed by Socrates with their fellow beings in the street of Athens. And Socrates was, you know, victimized for telling the truth. You know that people are victimized for telling the truth, and Socrates is one of them. He was mainly concerned with morality, knowledge, and justice. So Greek thinkers debated over a question of virtue, justice, knowledge, and truth. I think that these are the four important facets which are still useful for the human being. Virtue, question of virtue. What is virtue and what is vice depends on the society in which you are born and brought up. So virtue is subjective. It is not objective. What is virtuous in society may not be virtuous in another society. What is justifiable in one situation may not be justifiable in one situation. But knowledge is universal. Knowledge always takes you to the truth. It finds out a way and leads you to the destination of truth. So, what is the purpose of our knowledge? The purpose of our knowledge is to find out the truth. So, all human beings, all the efforts of the human beings on this planet are searching for truth. What is the ultimate truth of life? So, this was the gift given by the Greek philosophers to the world to make an inquiry into the basic things of life. You know that unless you ask questions, you cannot brighten your future. You cannot find out a solution to the problem. So, asking questions, I would say, is the best way of learning. Here, I would like to give you an example of Newton. How did Newton become a great scientist? When Newton was a small child and when he went to school, he was bothered with a lot of questions in his mind. One day, his father was weeding out the grass in his garden, in his backyard especially. In his backyard of the house, there was a beautiful garden, and his father was weeding out the grass. Newton was very curious as a schoolboy. He went to his dad. He asked him, Daddy, yeah, before that, I would like to tell you that he saw an apple falling down. And he was wondered, he was surprised as to why this apple fell down and why didn't it go up. That was a question in the mind of Newton. He asked his father, Dad, why does the apple fall down? Why doesn't it go up? And his father said, Sonny, I don't know the answer to your question. You better go to your mom and ask her. Newton hurriedly went to his mother, who was working in the kitchen. She was preparing some food, breakfast, something like that. And he went and into the kitchen and asked his mother, Mom, I have a question to ask you. Mother said, Sonny, what is your question? Newton said, Mom, I want to know why the apple falls down and why doesn't it go up? His mother was flabbergasted. His mother was surprised. She didn't know the answer to this question. She said to Newton, Sonny, my dear boy, you go to your school teacher and ask him, especially physics teacher. He will tell you why the apple falls down. Newton, having this question in mind, rushed to his school, caught hold of his physics teacher, and asked him, Sir, I have a question. His sir looked at him. Newton looked at his teacher. The eyes of both student and teacher met each other, and smilingly the teacher said, Yes, my boy, what is your question? And Newton said, Sir, why does the apple fall down? And why doesn't it go up? The physics teacher didn't know the answer to his question, and he straightforward declined to answer this question and said that, Newton, I don't know the answer to your question. You better go to your school headmaster and ask him. Newton again went to his headmaster, who was sitting in his office in a rocking chair, and he knocked the door, asked his permission, and went inside. The principal looked at Newton and said, What can I do for you? And Newton said, Sir, I have a question. The headmaster said, What is your question? Newton said, My question is this. Why does the apple fall down and why doesn't it go up? The headmaster was in trouble. He was not able to give the answer to Newton's question. He was surprised and he was afraid that he was not able to tell the answer to Newton. Then he said, Newton, I don't know the answer to your question. I'm sorry. What did Newton do then? Newton came home, thought about this problem, then went to the laboratory, sat there hours together. He worked from morning to night. He worked from dusk to dawn. He burnt a midnight oil and then discovered the law of gravitation. So the basic thing is that you should ask questions. Asking questions is the base way of learning. That is what I learned from this example of Newton. He was curious, and curiosity is the mother of invention, mother of discovery. If you have some queries, if you have some questions in mind, and if you want to get the answer by others, others may give you answers, but finally you have to find out the answer to your own question with your own efforts. And this is the best example of Newton, that one can learn by asking questions. So curiosity is the most important thing in doing research. So here, let's go back to the Greek debate, debating, questioning, discussion. All these things took place in the Greek culture. Greek thinkers, especially, debated over a number of questions. Their questions were related to vice and virtue, justice and injustice, knowledge and ignorance, truth and lie, and they would discuss on Greek politics and democracy. Especially, I would like to tell you that democracy is the gift given to the world by the Greeks, because that was the nation, that was the culture where the principle of democracy emerged. The root of the democracy lies in Greek ideas and culture. Because these debates laid the important philosophical foundations for the research in the world. The basic inquiry into the things is fundamental in research. Basic inquiries. While writing a research, you must ask basic questions and write your answers, write the paragraphs cogently or coherently. So the basic inquiry into the things is very fundamental to the research. In ancient Greece, there were four prominent philosophers. One is Pythagoras, 570 BC to 495 BC, Socrates, 469 BC to 399 BC, Plato, 427 BC to 347 BC, and Aristotle, 384 BC to 332 BC. So Pythagoras, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. These are the four pillars on which the basic inquiries rest. So this is the foundation of the philosophical inquiry, of the scientific inquiry, which will be very helpful for doing research. Ancient Greek philosophers and scientists mainly gave these gifts to the world. Which are these gifts? Number one, they gave the gift of democracy. They gave the gift of medicine because they were of scientific temperament. Geometry is also a gift given by the Greeks. And discoveries in modern science and logic and syllogism. Syllogism is a branch of philosophy which deals with a form of reasoning. Syllogism. Then another gift given by the Greeks to the world is epic and lyric poetry. Epic and lyric poetry, art and architecture. Then Olympic Games, coin money, fundamental steam engine, alarm clock, etc. Greek people have made major contribution to mathematics, astronomy, chemistry, engineering, architecture, and medicine. So the Greeks mainly, I'm very much impressed by the idea of individual liberty. So individual liberty is the gift given by the Greeks. The Greeks' emphasis was on the individual liberty. So this is the cornerstone of the Western civilization. Indeed, the spirit of humanism, as defined by the Greeks, is still alive and well in modern India, Indian and American culture and society. So, American and Indian democracies are thriving because of the basic ideas of democracy given by the Greek philosophers in the ancient past. I would like to tell you now how the Greeks contributed to the four main branches of knowledge. This will help you to, you know, do further research in this area or at least gain some knowledge in this area. Number one, which are the four main branches of knowledge which the Greeks contributed? Number one, literature. Number two, cultural contribution. Number three, science. Number four, art and architecture. Now, let me elaborate on how Greeks contributed to the branch of literature. It has been noticed that the Greeks contributed to the epic poetry, drama, history. Epic poetry. Epic poetry? Epic is a long poem, long narrative poem called epic. For example, Homer and Iliad and Odyssey, these are the great epics. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata are the great epics of India. Epic, E-P-I-C, epic poetry. For instance, we know that Homer wrote two famous immortal epics. Homer, the author of two great epics, Iliad and Odyssey. Iliad, I-L-I-A-D, and Odyssey, O-D-Y-S-S-E-Y, Odyssey, I-L-I-A-D, Iliad and Odyssey, O-D-Y-S-S-E-Y, Odyssey. So, Iliad and Odyssey, these are the two greatest epics of Homer, who was a Greek poet. These epics, what do these epics give you? What is the purpose of these epics? Why are these epics important for us? Why should we study them? And I think that these epics give a fairly faithful account of the social, economic, and political conditions of the ancient Greek culture. You know that you must have read some Canterbury Tales by Chaucer. The Canterbury Tales of Chaucer give the description of the society in the past of England. Similarly, the description given by these epics, Iliad and Odyssey, is related to the society itself, related to social aspect of life, related to economic aspect of life, related to political conditions of life, and relate to the overall situation prevailing at that time in the ancient past. So this is the mirror to society. These particular two epics are the mirror to the ancient Greek culture and society. So you can say that, you can also say that lyric poetry has its origin in Greek poetry also. Lyric. Lyre is a musical instrument. From this musical instrument, the word lyric has been formed. So lyric poetry is lyrical in nature, musical in nature. Lyrical means musical in nature. So music is poetry. So there is music in poetry. So this lyrical poetry has its origin in Greek poetry. Drama is also the most familiar form of Greek literature. You know, the tragedy and comedy and all other things. So drama was also a great contribution to Greek culture, and which is useful to us today. So we study drama and poetry to enhance the quality of our life. Now, the second aspect is cultural contribution related to culture. What is their contribution? So it is noticed that the Greeks contributed immensely to the cultural aspects of human beings. They believed in the principle of sound mind in a sound body. So their principle was a sound mind in a sound body. If your body is sound, your mind is likely to be sound. It should be sound actually. So if your body is weak, your mind is likely to be weak, perhaps. But here they evolved a principle which is very useful for the human society at that time. And that principle was sound mind in a sound body. So sound mind exists only in sound body. That was their principle. So it is due to the legacy of Greek culture, Western civilizations flourished. Because of the ideas that the Greeks gave, or the Greek philosophers gave to the world, the Western civilizations flourished in due course of time. Now, the third branch of knowledge is science. Out of philosophy, I said earlier that out of philosophy, science was born. Science was born actually out of inquiry, out of philosophical inquiry into the things. Greek philosophers furnished impetus for the beginning of scientific research. So scientific research began with the basic inquiries into philosophy, philosophical aspects of life. Then the contribution of the Greek philosophers cannot be neglected. Therefore, we have a name, very popular name in Greek philosophy, and that is Aristotle. So Aristotle basically laid the foundation of the study of natural science. Then Theophrastus established botany as a recognized science. Hippocrates is known as the father of medicine. He taught that the diseases have natural origin and not caused by evil spirits. This is very important. What did he teach? He taught, the Greeks taught, that diseases have a natural origin. So there is a scientific reasoning behind any disease. Disease is not caused by evil spirits, and they brought to the notice of the world. But unfortunately, in India today, there are a number of evil practices that have been going on, and which is not the healthy sign of a good society. So a good society should be based on the scientific spirit, the scientific temperament, and you should know the truth that the disease is caused by a natural phenomenon. For example, COVID disease is a natural phenomenon. It is not a disaster. It is not a disaster caused by evil spirits. And some of the people believe that this is the evil spirit which can be removed, which can be driven away by ringing the bells and by clapping the hand. These are all unscientific methods of removing the evil spirit or the natural disaster. You don't know what is going to happen in future. WHO, World Organization, has recently published a report that one new disease is coming, and which will be more dangerous than COVID-19. So we have to be very cautious about the disease and find out the true causes, the scientific base based on Greek thinking. Then there was another philosopher whose name is Herophilus, and he was called the father of anatomy. Anatomy. Anatomy means anatomy of your body. How is body formed? You should actually know your body. You should know the diseases. You should know the scientific reasoning of what has been happening to your body, and don't depend on the crack treatments. Crack, QUACK, crack treatment. There are many crack, doctors in the society, Indian society, and I think that they should be driven out of this world. And I am hoping that the world will be based on scientific thinking and rational thinking. These are the two ways to establish a harmonious community in the world. And the fourth area of knowledge was art and architecture. In Greek culture, art and architecture were given importance. They contributed to the field of art and architecture to a large extent. In the ancient period, you will find that Greek used wood in the initial stages to build the houses. So wood was used initially to build the houses. Later they made the use of sun-dried big bricks in the initial stages and build the houses. Later, they made the use of sun-dried bricks and construct the houses and temples. The use of marble stone was also first used by the Greeks. So they made use of marble stone and in the construction of temples. And they expressed the human values such as beauty and courage in their sculptures. If you look at their sculptures, you'll find that they imbibed in them the beauty and courage, determination, strength, virtues, justice, and everything. Even gods were portrayed as human beings. Look at the sculptures of Greeks, and you'll find that their gods are like human beings. The art of painting was also attributed to the ancient Greeks. So the ancient Greeks contributed a great deal to the thinking process of the researchers in those days, and this is also true in the modern world, that the Greek philosophy and the Egyptian philosophy is useful for our understanding of the world and increasing the knowledge of the world. So this is what the Egyptians and the Greeks contributed to the various facets of life. So in conclusion, now I would like to conclude my session with certain remarks. Thus, the Egyptians and the Greeks contributed to the various fields of our knowledge. The research scholars may take certain cues from the vast repertoire of knowledge in the ancient Egyptian and Greek culture. You may read leisurely the real history of the world and enrich yourself. Research should not be confined to a mere paper qualification. Your research should not become a mere research qualification. Research should not become a mere paper qualification. What I want to say that don't try to get just paper qualification. It should be related to your ability as a research scholar. So enhance your ability as a research scholar. Don't only strive for the degree certificate. Don't just strive, don't just make effort to get a PhD degree as a certificate. It will give you bread and butter. It will give you bread and chutney in the Indian sense. But it will not give you joy and fulfillment unless you strive for excellence. And remember that excellence is not an accident, but it is the outcome of continuous disciplined, and dedicated efforts. So excellence is not an accident. It cannot come overnight. You know that it is not an accident. Excellence cannot come overnight. You cannot become excellent overnight. So it is not an accident. So it is the outcome of your continuous, disciplined, and dedicated efforts. With these words of wisdom, I conclude my session. I wish you from the bottom of my heart all the success in your endeavor for earning your much coveted PhD degree. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you very much.